Hi, it's Simon, and welcome to your next guide video in this LifeOS onboarding series. Today, we're going to focus on the client and content OS. So this is predominantly for people that own that specific template, which would look like this with its own project, life areas, and all the rest stuff in it. Or if you have the bundle, which I suspect most people will, if they're using the client or CRM content manager, and that is all then kind of built into the system. So if you click through, you'll see the CRM, and then there's a kind of hidden menu which then takes you to an overview of all of it within here. So in this video, we're going to focus on the client section of the template. And then in the second video of this kind of pair, we'll then look at the content manager, how to use that, how to kind of invoice and all of those things. But in this video, I'll show you the basics of how the whole system works. And I want to demo kind of adding clients, contacts, sponsors, collaborators, guests, whatever else you want to put into the system, into the CRM. I'll show you how the pipelines view works, and we'll also look at a little bit of how it links to the budgets and invoice section of the template, whichever one you're using. So let's begin with taking a little look at the layout of this system. We've kind of covered it there, but what you'll find is, let's do it from the bundle view. It's worth saying that if you own the Notion LifeOS, your contacts page is a lot simpler, and there's not really much that needs to be said about it. You can jump to contacts under capture, and you just have a database with business and kind of personal contacts within it. Pretty simple. We're not going to worry about that. When you upgrade or simply downloaded the bundle or the content and client OS, it's called the CRM, and it's a little bit more involved. You can see we've got options to add clients, sponsors, collaborators, and guests, and general contacts. This is where I would put personal contacts if you're going to drop them in the same system. And it's worth saying that within this setup, if we look at how the buttons work and then click on the contact type from the CRM database, you'll see that there are these tags, which is how we sort the system. There's leads. So anything that's new goes in, usually would go in with a lead, unless you use one of these buttons, and then you'll be adding a client, which I think would be anything you link to projects, so consulting work, that kind of stuff. Or you might link it to content if you're making content for clients. Sponsor is really focused on people paying you money around the content you produce. Someone like me as a YouTuber, I work with sponsors and partners. That's what they'd go under. And then there's an option for collaborators and guests. So that's any of you that might run, say, podcasts, or maybe you interview people on projects, or maybe it's just where you want to keep contractors that you are working with on from your side of the business. That's where I would put those. And then you've got these filtered views of the same database for people classified as clients. If you ever want to check what the views are filtered by, just click filter and look at the rule and you'll see it. It's not archived and it's a client, and each of those views. And then this one is a view of all the contacts as either a gallery or a list. We've also got a little charts and metrics area, which will allow you to look at kind of how many contacts you've got by type, how many projects by clients, and all of that kind of stuff. If that's useful to you, maybe you want to check those out. Of course, remember that charts are only available on paid or education plans if you want more than one. So in terms of navigation, we have a pipelines view, which we will talk about in a bit. This is around projects and content that's live. We then have a client portal. Now, the client portals view, this was built purely so that you can have a separate database where you share information with clients, because personally, I wouldn't want all of the information that I store in my CRM to be shared with the client themselves. And currently, because as of building this, Notion don't offer database level line permissions, if you share the whole client page in your CRM, you can't hide information. So the idea of this, for example, for Pepper Corp, is that it's its own template where you can do things like onboarding questionnaires, get them to book a call, drop project documents. And all you would do with this is, we'll show you how to create it later, but you would click share, and in here, invite a person to have access to it as a guest. Here, my colleague Colin is a guest on it, as an example. And if we then link back to the Client, this is my private page where I've got all the information. You can see under client portal, I've then got a linked view to that client portal, along with the project's content, any notes that you've linked to them, and any budgets that are related to the client. Pretty cool. So that's an overview of kind of the views that you've got. We'll go into the content manager later in terms of channels, content calendars. That's for the second video of these two. Right, let's look now at adding a new contact. I would do this in 3 places. One, you can just do it on the homepage. If you have this system, you would open this up and you can see you can just add a new client or contact. So if I do that, it will come up as a lead. Well, why don't we put them in as David Allen's? How about that? And you can decide if you want that to be the company or the person. If you want to do it by company, you could do that, and then you could put contacts within it. There's also the option, I suppose, to kind of relate this to itself, this database, and then you could have a way to separate it, but I think this is fine. I'm going to put David Allen's, not the Getting Things Done guy, but it's an example. You put the details in, emails, websites, and this will show up. Why don't we do that? You get the idea. And then down here, all the relations that you want to work with, you can link them to anything that you want to link them to. You could just link them to a life area just so you know that those contacts are related to it. So maybe I'll put that under personal development. It's useful for me. But the key ones I think you're going to want to use are related projects or content. So the stuff you'll be working on with them, and potentially you'll relate them to a budget, but we'll do that in a bit. So by David Allen being a lead, it means that in our Quick Drop inbox, we will see them listed within the inbox. You can also, of course, add new contacts here within the Quick Drop view, and you'll, of course, see them listed here. Now, if you want to add them into the system, all you would do is click on lead and turn them into what you think they are. Let's say they're a client, and you'll see that they're filtered from it. And of course, the final place to add a contact is in the CRM itself. And in that area, you can then add new examples by the type. So let's add a new sponsor, and let's make that Notion. Let's say they were sponsoring me for a video. I'm going to put in Ivan, the CEO, as my primary contact. Why not? This isn't their email. There you go, for absolute clarity, zalfaked@notion.com. So they're in as a sponsor. And then what we would potentially do here is relate them to content and projects. So it could be that you create a new project or piece of content, or relate them to an existing one. Let's say that I was going to have Notion sponsor one of my existing videos, how Notion forms can change your life. I'm going to link them to that content. And what you will then see is that this little area is made live, and our report says that we now have one live piece of content. And of course, if you related to them to projects, it would do the same thing. So that's a good example of how you would add someone. And this perhaps leads us to our next area, the pipelines view. Now, if we open up our pipelines view, we can see it here, or maybe we want to jump into the view itself. You will see that Notion are now live because we have that piece of content that we've related them to. Let's say that we wanted to make Jason Bourne live. Now you'll see that we have in lead and new, both client and lead status items. That's because this view is purely based on if anything is related to content or projects. So for example, with Jason, I'm going to go in and give him a project, and let's relate a project. And I'm going to build a website for Jason. I've already created a project. But if you wanted to create a new one, you would just create a new project in here and drop it in. But let's add them to website development. We then might want to make them a client just for updating reasons. And you can say when you were first connected to them if you want to. Now, if we go back out, you'll now see that Jason has moved into having a live project in the pipelines view. Now, all you would do here is work with them, and you could put, there's the project. Now, the one thing that I haven't done within this system is link contacts to tasks. And there's a good reason for that. If you want to do it, you can just go ahead and do it. If we just jump back in here, if we go into our tasks view, go to any view, go to properties, create a new property, add a relation, and you could link it to your CRM database if you want to do that. But I don't have it in there, and there's a good reason for that. And that is because I think that in general, you would either link clients to projects or content. For content, you're just getting on with it. And for projects, if we look in here, I would prefer to run things, go to JSON, within the project itself. So I can jump into the project, I can see that it's related to JSON Born, and then I can just manage all of my tasks within here. You could even do things like that, right? If you wanted to do it. And then you've got your stuff in there, you can kind of move things along, see that they've started, and then when they're completed, move them to done, and you would, be able to do all the usual task management stuff that you need to do within the project. This is a much cleaner way, I think, of managing a client because you can see it all within the project. So that would be my suggestion. But let's say you completed the project. What I love about this is if I now click that the website development is completed, you will see it has moved from projects, and you will see now that the report is updated to say that one of the projects was completed. And you will also see that it has moved in the pipeline to be completed. Now, if you added JSON to a new project, they would just go back to the other area. Maybe we add them to content this time. Let's just do that. A new Instagram reel for Jason to promote his website. You'll see he's now jumped back into having one live piece of content and a completed project. So that's the pipelines view. I think it's super powerful. My favorite build in the system. Now, if you are finding for any reason that this isn't working and Jason or whoever it is going back to leads when you complete projects, you may have an issue with your formula. To fix that, just a little note here, go into the view, can drop open all of the views here. Basically, if you bought this before the 22nd of November, you might find that's not working as well. So if you have that, just click into live here, and you want to essentially add these two sections, which I added a little bit later in the build. So if you want to, you can pause the video here. Essentially what I've done is taken this section here, duplicated it, and changed some of the false and true elements so it covers all areas. And then I just added two little extra brackets to complete the formula. But there's the formula if you need to see it. So that's the pipelines view and how you might add clients and sponsors, everything else into the system. The next thing I want to show you is another little way that you might want to set up to add clients, which is using the portfolio website. Now, down the bottom here is my portfolio website. You essentially could use this system to create an inquiry form. Now, again, Notion, after I created this template, released Notion forms, and I've linked in the description of this video, a link to my Notion forms update video, which will show you how to add forms into the template if you bought this before the 22nd of November. But if you're buying it essentially from when this video came out, I've actually already created an inquiry form for you. If I show you how this works, if we go to the site, essentially what you can do is share the website, publish it once you've updated all of this, and this will become a direct inquiry form linked to your system. So let's just go to the site. We bring this up, and if we click get in touch, you'll see we now have this wonderful inquiry form, and I'm going to fill it out. And you can see you can set forms up to ask, oh, I want some consulting for personal use, and I'd like to work with you. I'm not uploading anything, and I'm going to submit the inquiry. That is a Notion form submitted on the website, as you can see. Now, if we clear that, what you will see is that is linked back to, if we go into the CRM, the leads inbox, and there is my submission. Pretty cool, right? So this is another way to capture information into the system. As I say, watch that other video if you want to know how to use forms and how it works. But you can see in here, all we would then do is set the new contact type, and I'm going to make them a lead. It's all set up, and then I can add and continue as I would want with that example. And that's how simple it is. If you just want to jump through to the source database for the CRM, that is where I've made my inquiry form builder, and it's where you can update it. So if you want to update the inquiry form, that is where you do it if it's built in. Otherwise, watch that video to add it to your system pre-22nd of November. Lovely stuff. That's as far as I'm going to go with forms because it's all explained in the other video. Next, I just want to show you a couple of ways you might want to look at client projects or content in the system once they're set up. Either within the content manager for content, you could jump to the content calendar and you'd be able to find any content that has been set up within it. You can see here, this is by publish date, and we've also got by sign off date. That's quite useful. There's that reel. And if you wanted to show that the contacts, you can see their clients are linked to it and there's an invoice. We'll do a little bit of that in a minute, but that's a way to view it. And we can also view stuff on the homepage under my calendars. You could look at project timelines within there. Our cat flap installation and training is on the timeline. The way you do that is you make sure that you give the project timeline a date. So that's useful to know. Okay, so we've looked at adding and sorting clients and contacts into the system. Now I want to show you how you might link a client with a budget. So we'll come to client portals in a moment, but let's go back to our all clients. And within here, let's work with someone with a live project. So let's go to David Allen's and let's set ourselves up with a project again. So I'm going to add a project and we're going to create a new one. Let's say I'm building David Allen's a website. We're going to create the new project, open up projects. There it is. We can go in. It's not started yet. Link it to the year and give the timeline work for a month. Let's say this will generate in a moment. I've got my review system all set. Fantastic. And I'm just going to make the project live. Now, if we go back to our client area, we do have the option here to link expenditure and income in those databases from the budget tracker directly to the client. But my proposal is that you fundamentally do it by relating a budget. This would be much better in my opinion. So I would create in here a new budget for the client and even better, relate it to the project. So let's do that. You can do it in any direction you like, but let's say it is the davidallen.com build budget. We're going to create a new budget. We can then click into that and we want to relate that to the project as well. davidallen.com build. And now what you have is a loop of project, client, and budget all linked together, right? And then within this, you can actually plan things within this system. You can track. This is the place where you'd put actual stuff in. And by adding a new invoice within this, you will just ensure that it always links back to where you need to be looking. So of course you could link those two things. So let's say we wanted to invoice David Allen. I'm going to click new invoice and here we can see it. We're going to drop it in and say first build fee. We're going to make that a contract fee and I'm going to make the amount 2,000. There you go. That's all we really need. Under invoices, you can see it and we can jump into this and we can link that invoice to the client if we want to see it directly. So that's the only place I would look to link expenditure or income to the client is just link it back so you can see it against that client. And by doing that, you'll then find that the contact details for that client will drop in. So the only instance I would be linking income and expenditure to a client would be for an invoice. And now what we have within that is, you can fill that out. £2,000 fee, you can do that. Drop it in. It's all set up, nicely done, nicely done. You can see the sum. You can put your payable information in there, and that is the invoice. So I'll show you how to update your invoice template in a little bit, but we've now got David Allen's. We have related income. We've got that invoice, and we can say that that is invoice issued, say, there you go. You can see that it's related to the project. There we go. And then if we open up budgets, we can also see that let's just remove that from it. That's not very helpful. That's an old example. We can now see that the budget is linked in there. We can see income, so on and so forth is all listed within it. And I just think this is the cleanest way to manage a client within this system. There you go. It's also worth noting that income here has been removed from this list because we've added something to it. It's now become this area, which allows you to show more information about that setup. Good. Now, the last thing I want to do is show you how to edit and view client-related budgets and income within the wider system. So if we now jump back to the main homepage, you can also, of course, from, let's say, the CRM, you are able to jump to budgets and invoices here, which is part of the main budgeting section. You would go to budgets and invoices. You can see our David Allen build budget here, and we can see our issued build fee for David. Let's say we received it. We can now move that across, and that will be updated within the system. Now, under invoices, if you wanted to go into here, you can see, if I show the database title, this is the income database. In this income database, you are able to see this new invoice template. Jump into that and click edit. You can see you're editing a template within the income database, and this allows you to update the from area, payable to area. So if you update all of this information, when you generate a new invoice, your information will be within it. That's a very useful thing to know because it's a little bit hidden. But yeah, anything that's templated, remember that you're able to jump to them and edit them here in any database. And as you can see, it reports rather beautifully on if something is overdue or paid or anything else like that. So this one's been waiting for 77 days. How about that? It's a good example. And of course, this navigation system allows you to jump into a budget, see income, see invoices. Now we do, I think, have a little issue with the filter here, do we? It would be useful to remove that. There you go. You can see overdue invoices, you can see all of the information here, but then of course you can always just jump back to the project or the client from each view. And this just gives you a nice kind of route to jump between sections of the template as you need to do it. So hopefully that covers the essentials of adding clients, setting up projects and budgets related to them, and then being able to track things. If you want to go into more detail about using the budgeting system, I am working on a much more detailed video that will be out soon. I just have to pick my fights because this is a lot of work. So it's coming. And I want to address the other key thing here. So we've got our live clients with their projects and budgets. We'll worry about sponsors and content in the next video, but let's look at this, the client portal. Let's create a client portal now for Jason Bourne. Now there's a couple of ways to do it. You could just create a new one from here, but I would propose the easy way to do it, and there is some information, by the way, up the top here, is first of all to do it for the client itself. So jump to your CRM, let's find Jason. And within that page, we can then just click Create Client Portal, and it will drop it in under here. There it is. And you can see it says Edit Me. So what I want to do is go in and open it up. Let's make that full page. And you can see in here that you can rename this. So let's say I call it that. I would then click Share. This is already published because it's in an existing template. But I would then go to Share and add Jason up here and just drop it in, and you want to give them access. Probably can edit is fine, but when you invite them, why don't we just try this with Notion support, I would say just do can edit. You can invite them. And when you do it, make sure you don't make them a full member because you'll end up paying for them. So the key to this, if I just remove them from there, so the key to that is to add them via the share, give them full access or give them can edit, but do not turn them into a full member or you start paying for them. But then they would have access to this page. And within this page, we have, this is again slightly updated as of the 22nd of November with a Notion forms system. This is using the onboarding questionnaire. So if I go into admin and click into the project documents, I then have this onboarding form builder where I've created a form. You can go in there, edit that, update that to be whatever you want it to be for your system. You'll then have a place for the documents, which will arrive within here. So before I show you how it works, if you want to edit it, remember that within client portals, you're going to want to go into the template, click edit, and within this, you are then able to go in and edit the system and update what you want your questionnaire to be. Once you've edited it within the template, you will then, when you create a new one, you will see it updates with all that information. So let's now go into Jason Bourne's client portal. We can see it's related to Jason Bourne. And in here, we can now, for example, Jason can book a call. You could update this with your Calendly link if you wanted to, again, within the template, and do this questionnaire. And I've got a button here where I can create my own client proposal. And that, again, is a template within this system here. So again, you can edit it and that is your proposal. So if you jumped into that, you could jump through, update all of that, generate one and fill it out and it would sit within their system. Let's give an example of now Jason filling it in. Imagine Jason was in the workspace. They're going to click on Start Onboarding Questionnaire and let's call it Jason's website. He can propose the start and end date. He wants it done very quickly because it's Jason. He likes to be hands-on and he prefers regular short meetings. He could upload a file, which would be easily done. Let's just say he uploads an Audible icon for some weird reason. Any references, I'm not going to add. Does he have a rough budget? He wants to propose $2,000 and he's going to give it a name. He could then submit that and you can then view the response. There it is, but we don't need to do that. What you would find is if we go back into his portal, you would then see his questionnaire drop into the portal here. And as a response, you could then create your proposal. You could drop in various bits and bobs within here, project overview, etc., etc. Let's say that was completed. And you would then also see that within the system. And this is how you can collect things. So there's no reason why you can't also then start creating new templates within here for your system. Again, remember to do it though within the client portal template. That's where you would update it. But you can see his onboarding form has been submitted. You could even set yourself a new trigger when this is checked. If you have a paid system, you could set up an automation and you could select send an email to, and you could email yourself at your account so that when they submit something, you get a notification. I'm going to discard that. So pretty powerful stuff. If you are able to do automations because you have a paid plan, I recommend considering that for your client portal system. Pretty powerful stuff now in Notion. So there you go. You can see the different submissions, how that all works. And again, if you want to set up that onboarding questionnaire, make sure you jump over to the other video that I published on YouTube very recently from the 22nd of November on how to add the forms element of this template into the system. If we now jump back to our CRM, go to Jason's listing, we will be able to see everything we need. We've got his client portal within here. We've got his related content that he's been doing. And I believe he has a completed project already. But yeah, I've not done that in the obvious route, but you can see how simple it is. Finally, if you ever want to relate any documents within your knowledge base, you can do that here simply by adding notes. and references that will link into my setup, and you could add meeting notes that you've had with the client, for example, within it. So maybe I was having a chat with Pepper, I took some meeting notes. I would just simply add notes and references, meeting notes with Pepper, and I would see those turn up in the meeting notes section, and I can jump to them and see what I said, and it's all very good. Okay, that is the client manager with basic budgeting, invoicing, project and content management against the client sorted, and how to update and use the client portal to share it with clients. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the content manager and how to use it. I want to show you how you can use that to manage all of your social media, your media production. It could be newsletters, anything you want. You can see from the channels all the options that are already in there to work with. I'll also show you how you can track ideas, live projects within the system, how you can capture new ideas with this new form for idea generation. And we'll also take a little demo of how to link content a little bit more extensively for sponsors into the CRM. But that is for the next video. If you enjoyed this, hit like on it, because it goes a long way against the video, even though it's hidden. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.